Hi, my name is Lisa, and I'm a youth services librarian at the Watauga County Public Library in the mountains of North Carolina. And you can see some of those mountains right here behind me. I'm going to quickly show you a map of North Carolina so that you can see where I'm going to end our story time today. So I have begun my story time right here in the city of Boone, North Carolina, in the Appalachian Mountains on the west side of the state of North Carolina. And I'm going to be driving 6 hours to the coast of North Carolina to this place right down here at the mouth of the Cape Fear River. I'm going to end my story time at Oak Island. And right here you can see on this map of the United States roughly where North Carolina is in relationship to the other states. Well, let's get started with our story time. The mountains are filled with folk tales about a fella named Jack. So we call him Jack Tales, and Jack's a bit of a trickster. And today I want to tell you one of those stories, and it's called The Longest Story. But don't worry, because this story is going to take me less than 2 minutes to tell you. And it goes like this. There once was a king in these mountains, and he put out the offer that he was going to give his daughter and half of everything he owned to the feller that could tell him the longest story. Now the king had a 2-hour glass that he would turn over, and as the sand went through that glass, any feller whose story ended before the sand went through the glass, well, that feller had to join the king's army. Many men tried and many men failed, and that king's army got to be pretty near the biggest army around these parts. There was nobody that could come up against that king. Well, after a while, Jack heard about the king's offer, and he figured he'd give it a try. He was a pretty good storyteller. So he went before the king and he started his story like this. He said, once upon a time, there was a king who decided he wanted to gather enough grain to feed his people for 3 years. So all the people brought their grain and they put it in the king's warehouse. Well, the warehouse had a little bitty hole in one corner of it, and a little field mouse came scampering over to that hole, and he picked up a kernel of corn and he carried it back to his nest. And then he scampered back to that warehouse. He picked up another little kernel of corn and he carried it back to his nest. And he scampered across that field. He went to the hole in the warehouse. He got himself that little kernel of corn and he carried it back to his nest. And he scampered back to the warehouse, picked him up a little kernel of corn, and carried it back to his nest. And he scampered across that field, picked up a little kernel of corn, and he carried it back to his nest. Well, on and on Jack went, till the king nigh about fell asleep, and he said, Jack, aren't you ever going to tell me what happens next? And Jack said, well, sure, but I figure it's going to take another week or two for that mouse to finish carrying off all the corn in the warehouse. Well, the king realized he had been tricked, and he said, blame it all, Jack, take my daughter. And Jack did. And that's the end of The Longest Story. I hope you enjoyed that. And you know, it makes me think, talking about the mountains, telling stories about the mountains, it reminds me of a song called The Bear Went Over the Mountain. Now, we have a bear that used to live here on Grandfather Mountain. Her name was Mildred, but this song is not about Mildred. So I'm going to try to show you some sign language, and we'll try singing that song together, all right? So to sing the song, The Bear Went Over the Mountain, using a little bit of sign language, we will start it like this. We're going to do the sign language for bear, which is giving yourself a bear hug and kind of scratching at your shoulders. The bear went over. You just have your hands together and then lift one hand over. And the mountain is 2 rocks and then your hands going like that. And then to see what he could see, the 2 fingers represent your 2 eyes seeing what he could see. And then I'm going to show you how to do the last verse while we're actually doing the song. So get your bear hug ready. The bear went over the mountain. The bear went over the mountain. The bear went over the mountain to see what he could see, to see what he could see, to see what he could see. The other side of the mountain, the other side of the mountain, the other side of the mountain was all that he could see. I hope you enjoyed that song, and maybe rewind this if you want to sing it again. Well, it's about time for me to get on the road to drive to the coast. It's going to take me about 6 hours to get there, and I'm going to finish my story time there beside the Oak Island Lighthouse. And once I get there, I'm planning to read to you a book that I wrote, a true story, called Hungry Heidi Eats from A to Z. So you could be thinking about what a dog might eat for every letter of the alphabet. And once I get to the beach and I read this story to you, you could see how many of the items you guessed correctly. So I'll look forward to seeing you at the coast. Well, I made it to the coast of North Carolina, to Oak Island, and I'll show you the Oak Island Lighthouse is right there. And did you know that every lighthouse is painted in a unique way to identify that lighthouse? And they also have a unique light pattern, which I'll also show you in a separate video. The Oak Island Lighthouse has 4 consecutive light beams for its unique pattern. Now let's finish our story time with Hungry Heidi. Hungry Heidi eats from A to Z. A is for apple, which gets Heidi drooling. She could eat more than one a day, no fooling. In the orchard, she can get them all by herself. In the kitchen, she must wait until someone can help. I wonder if they are really good for her health. Heidi will eat blueberries, blackberries, and broccoli too. Sometimes I think she belongs in a zoo. Bananas are one of her favorite treats, but I'm pretty sure she has never tried beets. Eating vegetables has its merits. One of Heidi's favorites is carrots. She's also quite fond of corn on the cob. She could eat that like it was her job. Unfortunately, Heidi likes chocolate a lot. Is this good for Heidi? No, it is not. When she eats too much chocolate, quite sick she can get, and then we may have to take her to the vet. Sometimes this has put us a little in debt, but we are still happy that Heidi is our pet. Donuts are a favorite item. No matter what flavor, Heidi will bite 'em. She will also eat dandelions out of the yard. She does this by herself since it's not very hard. Heidi's favorite meal is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. With an appetite like that, she will never get thinner. Enchiladas, eggs, even Easter candy. Heidi thinks they are all just dandy. By now you know that Heidi loves fruit. She would even eat it served out of a boot. She doesn't give a hoot. Heidi likes grapes, but they are not good for dogs. Grapes might be better for hogs. There is something Heidi loves, and it helps keep her lean. We could actually call her the green bean queen. At Easter time, we have a feast, but when all the family activities have ceased, and no one is watching that furry beast, the bone from the Easter ham is left unattended. There will be no ham bone soup, the family lamented. In the summer, when we want a drink, we gather ice from the fridge, but before we can blink, Heidi comes running through the door to gather any ice cubes that fall on the floor. Heidi is a jelly bean fiend. From jelly beans she cannot be weaned. No matter what color we gave her, she thought every flavor was one she should savor. While making a recipe called island fruit salad, I decided to see if my theory was valid. Would Heidi really eat fruit of any kind? I gave her some kiwi, and for more she did whine. Heidi would eat lollipops of any flavor or size. For lollipop eating she could win a prize. We wish she would ask before she takes one, but Heidi thinks stealing is part of the fun. Marshmallows and M&Ms are something Heidi adores. No matter how many she eats, she always wants more. Heidi likes all kinds of nuts, but they don't always settle well in her guts. Once, she ate pistachios still in their shell, and it caused her to not feel very well. Oranges are very good for you. Heidi even likes them too. She eats fruit of any kind and doesn't even mind the rind. The sound of popcorn popping brings Heidi on the run into the kitchen looking for some fun. She patiently waits till the popping is done. She only gets a few pieces, but that's better than none. Quinoa is a nutritious grain. We eat it with veggies, but you could serve it plain. Once, when I spilled some on the floor, Heidi cleaned it up for me and then wanted more. Heidi likes rice. She thinks it's nice, but she will lick a dish of Rice Krispie treats clean until the treats can no longer be seen. In the snow, Heidi has so much fun. She loves to play and jump and run. To eat a snowball makes her day. She will probably eat them until she is old and gray. Last night, a tomato was Heidi's delight, and this morning when I turned on the light, another stain on the couch is what I did find, evidence of the tomato on which Heidi had dined. Once, when we decided to try udon noodles, Heidi ate the whole kit and caboodle. She would probably also even eat strudel. I wonder if you can serve these things to poodles? On Valentine's Day, Heidi can feel left out, so she might lie down on the couch to pout. She consoles herself by taking a box for herself. She is very proud of her stealth. Heidi enjoys eating watermelon in the summer. It's such a refreshing treat. The only thing that is a bummer is when summer ends, Heidi has to find something else to eat. A purse containing extra gum was forgetfully left on the floor. Someone had recently come back from the store. Heidi couldn't resist the smell or the taste. Another call to the vet was placed. Yes, Heidi will even eat a yam. We already knew she liked ham and jam. She likes vegetables, bread, meat, and fruit, and we still think she's very cute. Sometimes, for a meal, I will chop up zucchini. We might even eat it served on rotini. Heidi can make it disappear like Houdini. She could probably do the same with panini. All the stories I've told here are actually true, and I wrote this book just for you. Well, now I'm on the marsh side of Oak Island. You can actually see some of the Coast Guard ships in one side of this picture. It's a little less windy here, so I thought I'd finish up my story time here. I wanted you to give me a thumbs up if you guessed more than 10 of the foods that Heidi ate while she was eating her way through the alphabet. I'm thinking you might not have guessed Q for quinoa. That was a bit of a surprise for me, even, that that's what she accidentally ate. And then extra gum, which is not good for dogs. But I hope you were able to guess at least 10 items that she enjoys eating. And I hope that you will be inspired to make an alphabet book of your own about things that you like and enjoy. And you could take pictures of those things or draw pictures. On YouTube, I'm going to link underneath this video to a classroom who made their own version of the Z Was Zapped. And I hope you'll be inspired to try something like that as well. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this story time where I've been able to take you from all across the great state of North Carolina, from the North Carolina mountains to the North Carolina coast. And the way I end all my story times is in the words of Tigger, ta-ta for now.